Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we even get started today, I need you to do a quick favor for me.
Yeah, please do.
I need you to hit that like button and subscribe to the feed right now.
Seriously, do it now.
Yeah, because what we are about to unpack today is going to challenge basically everything you think you know about the structure of modern society. And trust me, you are going to want to be here for more of these breakdowns.
That's right. Today isn't just a regular review. It's basically an excavation of the modern world.
Yeah.
We are looking at a book that doesn't just knock on the door of polite society.
Yeah, it kicks the door down.
Exactly. It kicks the door down and demands to know where the furniture went.
We are diving deep into Govern Harder Daddy by Conrad Riker. And let me tell you, this is not a self-help pamphlet. Riker calls it a textual broadsword.
A weapon.
Right, a weapon forged specifically for the modern man. It is incisive, controversial, and honestly just fascinating.
It is intense, and we should be clear right up front about who this is really for.
Yeah, let's set the stage.
This deep dive is tailored specifically for the red-pilled manosphere, for men's rights activists, and for anyone who looks at the current cultural narrative, the media, the schools, the corporate world, and thinks something is fundamentally wrong here.
So if you have that nagging feeling that the system is rigged, Riker is here to tell you that you're right, and he's brought the receipts.
It really is.
His core premise is wild, but it's backed by this relentless, almost mechanical logic. He argues that Western civilization is undergoing what he calls a satanic inversion.
Which sounds like a very heavy theological term.
It does, yeah.
But he breaks it down metaphysically and historically. He argues that the father archetype, which represents logos, order, structure, and objective truth, has been metaphorically and in some cases literally murdered.
And what replaced it?
What he calls a gynocentric state ruled by pathos. So feelings, chaos, and subjectivity.
So it's the shift from, father knows best to do not hurt my feelings or I'll call HR.
Precisely. So our mission today is to unpack this entire thesis from the book. We're going to look at the history of how institutions, which used to be these bastions of order, were captured by feminists and Marxists.
We'll break down the economics of what Riker calls the tax farm.
Right, and finally we'll get into his Patriarch Protocol for reclaiming sovereignty.
Now, just a heads up, everything we're analyzing today comes straight from the source material, Govern Harder Daddy. We are just the messengers here, reporting on the ideas in the text.
And we can only cover so much in this dive.
Exactly. So if you want the full, unfiltered experience, you really need to buy the book. It's available right now on Amazon, Kindle, and Google Play Books. Go get it if you want to see the data for yourself.
So let's start with that first big idea, the foundation of his whole argument, the metaphysical murder of the father.
This is fascinating stuff because he takes it all the way back to ancient principles. He sets up this dichotomy between masculine reality and female sentiment.
Right, he uses the Greek concepts for this. Logos is the masculine principle.
What?
Logic, structure, boundaries, the cold hard facts of reality. Logos doesn't care how you feel, it cares what is.
And pathos.
Pathos is the feminine principle. Emotion, nurturing, the subjective experience, the vibes, basically. His argument is that historically, civilization was built on logos. Because you need walls, you need laws, you need rigid structure to survive.
But his point is that we've completely abandoned that structure.
We have. The book argues we've shifted to a society where masculine reality, like objective truth, is considered offensive. We don't care what is true anymore. We only care about what feels good or what feels safe.
He calls it a shift to subjective feelings.
Yeah.
And the really crazy part is how he says this manifests in the government. He has this concept that the state has essentially become a surrogate husband.
The daddy state.
Yeah.
This is absolutely crucial to understanding his view of the last 50 years of history. Historically, women relied on a husband, a biological father, for provision and protection.
That was the basic social contract.
Right. The man faced the harshness of the outside world, and the woman nurtured the home. But Riker argues that the modern state has completely usurped that role.
So the government stepped in and basically said, hey, I can provide better than he can.
Exactly. The state provides the security, the welfare, the resources, the police protection. So Riker argues that the state effectively seduces women with the promise of guaranteed security, rendering the biological husband totally redundant.
He just becomes obsolete.
Obsolete as a protector, yes, but highly necessary as a resource. He becomes a tax mule.
A tax mule. Wow.
Yeah, he is needed to fund the surrogate husband.
Yeah.
Riker points out that this destroys the nuclear family because the woman no longer needs to compromise with a man. She has the ultimate backing of the government.
And he gives a really vivid example of this institutional shift with the Episcopal Church. I thought this was just a brilliant case study of how an institution gets captured.
Yes, the nursing home effect. It's a perfect example of the death of logos.
Because they tried to be nice.
Exactly. He analyzes how the church moved away from dogma, strict rules, concepts of sin, judgment, the masculine aspects of religion, and they just embraced inclusion, social justice, and feelings.
They tried to be a mother instead of a father.
And the result wasn't explosive growth, it was total collapse. Membership tanked. His point is that when you remove the father archetype, the disciplinarian, institutions don't become kinder, they become sterile.
They just wither away.
Right, because people actually crave order. Yeah. And when an institution stops providing order and just provides blanket affirmation, it loses its entire purpose.
And the intellectual engine driving this decline, according to Riker, is something called standpoint epistemology.
That's the academic term for it, yeah. It originates from Marxist feminism.
Yeah.
It's the idea that your lived experience and your victim status grant you this special access to truth that objective data just cannot touch.
So if I feel oppressed, I am oppressed. And your statistics about reality don't matter at all because you haven't lived my truth.
Exactly. It completely elevates subjectivity above objectivity. Riker links this directly to what he calls woke communism.
Because it demands equity.
Right. It creates a system where outcomes are manufactured to achieve equity. And remember the distinction he makes here. Equality is equal opportunity. That's a logos concept.
Everyone gets to run the same race.
Yes. But equity is equal outcome. That's a pathos concept. It means actively rigging the game so everyone feels like a winner, regardless of performance.
And Riker argues that merit, which is a competitive masculine metric, is essentially considered a sin in this system. It's literally a war on competence.
Which leads us directly to the money. Because rigging the game and providing total security for everyone isn't free.
No, it's very expensive.
And Riker calls this economic system the tax farm.
This is where the book gets into the hard economics, and honestly, the numbers are pretty shocking. He argues there is a massive wealth transfer happening right now, completely hidden in plain sight. He calls it the gender tax gap.
The statistics he cites are staggering. He points to IRS data and fiscal research showing that the top 50% of earners pay about 97% of federal income taxes.
97%.
Right. Now, who are those top earners? Predominantly men. Men work longer hours, they take more dangerous jobs, and they dominate the high-paying STEM fields.
So men are out there earning the money and paying the vast majority of the taxes.
Correct. But then look at the spending side of the ledger. Women control about 80% of consumer spending.
Wow.
And on the government side, the vast majority of welfare, healthcare subsidies, and social programs are consumed by women and children.
So the state takes from men and gives to women.
Riker describes the welfare state not as a safety net, but as a deliberate mechanism to siphon resources from productive men and transfer them to consuming women.
It's basically a redistribution scheme based on sex.
Yes. In a way, it operates like a bachelor tax.
Yeah.
Single men are taxed heavily to subsidize single mothers and the independent lifestyles of women via government programs.
So her independence is funded by his labor.
That's his exact argument. A woman can claim to be independent only because the state is forcibly extracting resources from men to support her lifestyle through subsidies, infrastructure, and protection.
And divorce plays a huge role in this asset stripping, right? I mean, anyone who follows the manosphere knows about the bias in divorce courts, but Riker really goes deep on the actual mechanics of it.
He does. He calls divorce courts a wealth extraction industry.
State-sanctioned heists, I think is the quote.
That's the quote, yeah. He focuses heavily on the introduction of no-fault divorce. Before this happened, marriage was a contract that required a real reason to break. Adultery, abuse, abandonment.
You had to prove someone broke the terms.
Right. But no-fault divorce changed marriage into a contract that is literally less binding than a standard gym membership.
Because you can just wake up and say, I'm unhappy, I want out.
Exactly. The law allows one party to unilaterally break the contract without any penalty. And statistically speaking, women initiate about 70 to 80% of divorces.
But the financial obligations remain.
Yes. The alimony, the child support, those remain on the party that didn't necessarily even want the split.
It's a contract where you can just walk away with the assets, but leave the other person with the liability.
And Riker connects this directly to voting patterns. He argues there's a fundamental safety versus liberty trade-off happening at the ballot box.
How so?
The female voting bloc, he claims, consistently votes for security, which means expanding the state and increasing taxes. And they do this at the expense of male liberty.
Because men tend to vote for less government?
Yes, and women tend to vote for more government.
So men are effectively paying for the very system that disenfranchises them.
That is the absolute core of the tax farm concept. You are the livestock. You're kept alive and working solely so you can be sheared.
That is a brutal image. But it sets up the next section perfectly, which is probably the most controversial part of the whole book. Riker uses the term men camp.
He does. It's a very provocative title, obviously playing on historical propaganda. He's drawing a parallel to how societal propaganda works. He argues there is a systematic, institutionalized demonization of the male sex.
And what's the purpose of that?
The goal of this propaganda is to morally justify that resource extraction we just talked about.
Right, because if men are toxic or if they are the oppressors, then it's morally acceptable to take their stuff. You don't feel bad about taxing a villain.
Exactly. And the book points out that this starts early, very early. He talks about the education system as indoctrination centers. He calls the modern school environment overtly hostile to boyhood.
He calls them the Ritalin generation.
Yes. The argument here is that schools have been heavily feminized. They prioritize sitting still, being quiet, and being agreeable.
Which are traits that girls generally develop much earlier than boys.
Right. So schools pathologize normal, high-energy male behavior. If a boy is rowdy or competitive or aggressive, he's not seen as a potential leader or a warrior. He's seen as defective.
So they diagnose him with ADHD and they medicate him.
To make him docile, to kill that masculine drive before it even has a chance to start. The goal, Riker argues, is to create compliant subjects who will just sit in a cubicle and pay their taxes without complaint.
And if he survives the school system, he graduates and goes straight into the corporate cup chair.
I love that term. It's funny, but it points to something very real. It refers to the complete takeover of the corporate world by human resources.
Riker describes HR departments as being run by Karen commissars.
Which is a great historical analogy. In the Soviet Union, the commissar was the political officer embedded in the military unit to ensure everyone was thinking the correct thoughts.
They weren't fighting, they were just policing the fighters.
Exactly. Riker argues HR isn't there to optimize productivity anymore. It's there to enforce ideological conformity.
He mentions the incompetence meritocracy, too.
Right. This is where diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives come in, DEI. Riker argues that these initiatives effectively tax competence.
Because you aren't hiring the best person.
No, you are hiring based on quotas or vibes or identity politics, rather than who is the absolute best at the job. And this degrades the entire company. It creates what he calls a hollow corporation.
A company that can't actually innovate because it's too busy policing pronouns and running struggle sessions.
Exactly. And if you fall afoul of these commissars or if you get dragged into the legal system, you are in serious trouble.
That's where he discusses the Duluth model in policing.
Yes. It's a policy used in many jurisdictions that basically says in a domestic dispute, the male is the primary aggressor by default.
Just by default.
Yes. Even if he is the one bleeding, the police are trained to arrest him first. It automatically assumes male guilt.
It sounds exactly like the Star Chamber concept he talks about regarding family courts.
Yes, courts operating completely without the standard presumption of innocence. Riker points to the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial as a massive red pill moment for the entire culture.
That was a huge turning point for a lot of people. I mean, it was glued to every screen in the world.
Riker argues it exposed the believe all women narrative for exactly what it was. It showed the world that a man, even a wealthy, famous, powerful man, could be the victim of a systematic smear campaign.
And that the supposed victim could actually be the real aggressor.
It shattered the illusion of moral superiority that the gynocentric state relies on. It proved that women are capable of the exact same violence and lying as men.
Which totally undermines the women are wonderful effect that justifies the daddy state in the first place.
It really peeled back the curtain.
It did. But Riker doesn't just look at the present, he looks at where this is all heading. And he gets pretty dark in the next section with the altar of Moloch. This is about the future of civilization.
He links abortion directly to demographics and economics. He brings up the my wallet, my choice argument.
It's a really interesting syllogism he uses.
Right, his logic goes like this. If women have absolute reproductive autonomy, my body, my choice, meaning they can choose to opt out of parenthood after conception, then men should logically have financial autonomy.
He calls it the paper abortion.
Yes. If she can opt out of motherhood, he should be able to sign a piece of paper and opt out of the financial burden of fatherhood.
But obviously the state won't allow that.
Of course not, because they desperately need the tax money. But the consequence of this massive imbalance is demographic collapse. Riker argues that feminism acts as a shrink ray for civilization.
A shrink ray.
Yes. He points to Japan and the herbivore men.
These are men who have just checked out of society entirely.
Right. They don't date, they don't marry, they work bare minimum jobs.
Because why play a game that is so obviously rigged against you?
Exactly.
So birth rates fall below replacement levels, and the civilization slowly dies out because the men simply refuse to participate in a system that hates them. It's essentially a slow-motion suicide of the culture.
So the state just eats itself. But Riker isn't just doom and gloom here. He actually offers a solution. He calls it building the New Jerusalem.
This is the Patriarch Protocol. His overarching strategy is to starve the beast. You stop feeding the system that wants to destroy you.
So practically speaking, how do you do that? You build parallel institutions. You opt out. And one of his big focuses here is Bitcoin.
Now that's interesting. Why Bitcoin? How does crypto fight the gynocentric state?
He describes Bitcoin as logos money.
Going back to the beginning.
Right. It's immutable. It's pure code. It's mathematics. It is masculine in nature because it cannot be manipulated by feelings, politics, or social pressure. You can't just print more Bitcoin to fund a massive welfare state or a foreign war.
It imposes strict discipline.
Riker sees it as the ultimate financial shield against the state's inflation and theft. It allows you to hold your wealth where the daddy state can't easily seize it.
That makes a lot of sense. It's money that plays by the hard rules of reality, not the subjective rules of politics. And then he drops what he calls the nuclear option, ectogenesis.
Artificial wombs.
Yeah.
Riker sees this as the ultimate game changer on the horizon. Currently, women hold a complete biological monopoly on reproduction, which gives them immense leverage over both men and the state.
They are the absolute gatekeepers of the next generation.
Right. But if ectogenesis becomes viable and widespread, that monopoly is broken. If men can have children without the gatekeepers, the entire leverage of the gynocentric state just collapses.
The sexual marketplace value changes literally overnight.
It completely resets the board.
That is wild to think about. I mean, it sounds like sci-fi, but he argues it's a necessary technological step for men to regain true sovereignty. But until we get artificial wombs, he suggests a mental shift for right now. The Stoic sage.
Yes. He highly recommends the gray rock method.
Unpack that. What is the gray rock method?
It's a psychological technique usually used for dealing with narcissism or emotional shaming. You essentially become like a gray rock. Uninteresting, unresponsive, totally impenetrable.
So when someone tries to bait you into an argument...
When the system or a Karen at work or a partner using emotional blackmail tries to provoke you, you simply withdraw your attention.
You just don't give them anything.
You refuse to react emotionally. You deny them the validation they are desperately craving. Riker argues that reclaiming your sovereignty starts with controlling your own attention. If they can't make you react, they can't control you.
So we've gone from the metaphysical murder of the father all the way to the Patriarch Protocol. It's literally a battle plan for the mind.
It really is. Riker frames this entire book as a shield against psychological operations. He wants you to understand that the discomfort you feel in modern society isn't because you're broken.
It's because the system is designed to break you.
Exactly. It is designed to extract your labor and give you nothing in return.
And that leads to the most provocative thought he leaves us with. The state does not love you. The state eats you.
It's a chilling line, but it's the splash of cold water the listener needs. The question he poses to the reader is simple. Are you ready to stop feeding the hand that bites you?
That is the question of the century. And look, think about it even further. If the state eats you, and you decide to starve the beast by opting out, what happens when the tax farm runs out of productive livestock? The state will eventually have to turn on its own dependence. The whole system cannibalizes itself.
It's a terrifying thought, but a logical conclusion.
Look, we've only scratched the surface of what's in this book today. Riker goes incredibly deep into the history, the philosophy, and the economics. If you want the full red pill experience, you need to read Govern Harder, Daddy.
Absolutely. We can summarize it here, but but you really need to internalize it. It's available right now on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books. If you want to understand the machinery working against you, this is the manual.
And for his daily intelligence briefings, Riker is very active online. You need to follow him at Conrad Riker on Substack. He's putting out reports that you are just not going to see in the mainstream media, stuff that dissects the daily news through this exact lens we just discussed.
Do not miss out on that Substack. Information is ammunition. Knowledge is the only way to fight back against the inversion.
Exactly. The state might want to eat you, but you do not have to put yourself on the menu. Go get the book on Amazon or Google Play, follow the Substack, and before you go, make absolutely sure you've liked this deep dive and subscribe to the channel. We're going to keep bringing you the insights they don't want you to hear.
Stay sovereign.
See you on the next deep dive.